You are watching No Filter with Debbie. These are my views and opinions. Welcome to No Filter with Debbie. I'm Debbie Schlussel, and you know what's driving me crazy? COVID. Because today is what, March 15th? So we are more than a year into that 2 weeks that you were supposed to lock yourselves down to flatten the curve. How is that year into more than year into the 2 weeks? Today's the 15th. Spring is in a few days, just a few days less than a week. And they still want to keep us imprisoned. They still want to take away our freedoms because you know what this is about. This was never about flattening the curve. This was never about stopping COVID. This was about them asserting their power on us, taking away our freedoms, and seeing if they could get away with it. And once they did get away with it, it was seeing how long they could do so and how far they could expand this. And they found out pretty damn long, pretty far extensive. And now we have these vaccines. And you're not allowed to say that the vaccines don't always work. Yes, in some cases, I would be lying to you and ignoring the data if I said they don't work, because we know that a lot of people who have been vaccinated are now perfectly healthy, fine. But they don't work on everyone. And that is the problem when you rush something and then it's not tested for the long term. Long term studies have to be done on any kind of vaccine. And when I say long term, typically a long term study involves 10 or 15 years. Yes, it involves years. That's what's typical. And there's not just one long term study, there are several because one study could be flawed. That's why one study is never a reliable indicator of much of anything. You have to have several studies that show something or much of the same thing. So we have these vaccines. We now know that in several countries in Europe where AstraZeneca's vaccine was taken, a lot of people are getting sick. People are falling ill. People are having heart attacks, seizures. People are dying. Countries have stopped instituting these vaccines. They have stopped using them or they've put a halt to it. And now, over the weekend, boxing great Marvelous Marvin Hagler, yes, Marvelous was part of his legal name, passed away. May he rest in peace. And here's a tidbit of trivia for me. I worked for the lawyer that did the legal name change of Marvin Hagler to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. That was his legal first name after he went to court, Marvelous. And one of his greatest boxing moments was against Thomas Hearns, I believe for the middleweight championship. And I was a neighbor of Thomas Hearns. He bought a house for his mother for Thanksgiving one year as a Thanksgiving gift. And a lot of his brothers and sisters moved in. It was around the block from me. We used to always see them. One of them went to high school with me. And I know Thomas Hearns. I see him around my neighborhood off and on. And he said that the reason Marvelous Marvin Hagler died unexpectedly at the very young age of 66 was from the vaccine. That's right. He said that he died from the vaccine. He got sick from it. So if this guy, yes, I realize he's 66, he's not 46, but still, that is a relatively young age. And he was still in good shape. He worked out every day. And he died from this. If that's true, that he died from that vaccine, that should give everybody pause because he was very healthy for a 66-year-old. And it's very scary. So, was it from COVID? Well, they probably won't let you find out because, even if you raise this issue or if you post it on Facebook or Twitter, you will get Faucified or Fauci'd, as one of my Facebook friends, Mr. Mike Severino, had to say when he sent me this information. And he's absolutely right. You will get Faucified, you will get Zuckerberg, you will get Jack Dorsey'd, you will get silenced. You will lose your online media platform. These tech giants will shut you down, even though we know that this is happening all over Europe right now. We know that. So there's that. And then, so this vaccine is not a fail safe. And we know that just because you take the vaccine doesn't mean everybody's going to. That doesn't mean that coronavirus is going to go away. It probably will not. We have to reopen our world. We have to reopen our country. We have to restore our freedoms. We cannot wait for a perfect situation. It will never be perfect. There will never be zero deaths, just as there will never be zero deaths from the common cold and the flu. There won't be, ever. And guess what? People live their lives. They always do through these illnesses. It's how it works. It's the circle of life. Some people will die, others will recover. Most will recover. The vast, vast majority. The statistics are so low of the number of people who will die. Despite that, though, people like Anthony Fauci do not want to give up their reign on power. They do not want to give up the limelight. They are media whores, they are attention whores, and they are megalomaniac power whores. So check out this video of Anthony Fauci, who was on Meet the Press on NBC on Sunday. Chuck Todd talks to him about climate change and COVID, and he doesn't disagree. Take a look.
You know, when you think about, sadly, having to prepare for this again, right? And I know there's a lot of folks who think that, you know, due to climate change and due to the globalization in general, it's inevitable we're going to deal with more and more viruses like this. The biggest lesson you're going to take away to prepare for the next one?
You know, there are a couple of lessons, Chuck. There are lessons domestically. There are lessons public health-wise, scientifically. Let's take global to begin with. We have to have a better global health security network of interconnectivity, of communication, of transparency, so that we are talking to each other all the time and know what's going on. We also have to have a continued investment in the science. If you want to look, Chuck, at the success story in this terrible year has been the extraordinary, unprecedented advance with the vaccine, where, you know, in January of 2020, we started the process, and 11 months later, we had a highly efficacious vaccine going into the arms of individuals, which is going to be the answer to this, together with public health measures. So keep the science up, continue to support the public health infrastructure, and remain global in our interactions. You know, as I've said so many times, a global pandemic requires a global response.
So what does he mean by that exactly? A global response. So we're going to give up American sovereignty and let the WHO, the WHO control us, or we're going to let the United Nations control us? No. We are a sovereign nation. You would hardly know it the way we're giving money away to other sovereign nations, like all the native tribes. But last time and you would also hardly know it with what's going on now at our southern border. But last time I checked, we are a sovereign nation. You don't act globally. This is not climate change. That is junk science. He said, look at the science. What is the science exactly that he's talking about? Because after the break, we are going to show you some video where he says things not to do based on zero science. And instead, it's based on him retaining power and becoming our national nanny, which he's been now for well over a year. Are you going to let him do this for yet another year? How long are you going to let this Nimrod control your lives? How long? This is crazy. And you know what the problem is? I don't see people rising up. I'm not talking about illegal action. Nobody's advocating that here at Beck. I'm talking about protesting in the streets, doing things the legal way, not burning down buildings and businesses and looting them like Black Lives Matter does. Where are Americans to take back their rights? Where is the Boston Tea Party of today? All right, when we come back, we will show you some video of Fauci saying not to do certain things that it's just absurd. We have to go on with our lives. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Beck.
respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after a fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie. On back before the break, we were talking about Anthony Fauci. He's being dragged kicking and screaming, trying not to give up his power. This guy is a megalomaniac. He is a narcissist. He's a media whore. He's an attention whore. He is a power grabber. He does not care about your liberty. He does not care about your freedom. He does not care about your lives. He wants to exert control over everything that you do. So take a look at this video where he talks about weddings this weekend.
And very quickly, we know President Biden said at backyard gatherings. I've got a staffer or two that wants this question asked of you, and I'm sure they're not alone, which is, when can people plan an indoor wedding?
You know, that's a good question, and I think that's going to be within a reasonable period of time. You notice what the CDC is doing. They gave, excuse me, I didn't hear what you said.
This calendar year?
What time of the year? I can't give you that exact date because it's going to absolutely depend, and this gets back to our conversation a minute or two ago. It's going to depend on the level of infection in community. If we plateau and stay at 60,000 a day and go up with a peak, I mean, you can make no prediction. If we keep going down and get to a very, very low level, when we're there and we have a good proportion of the people vaccinated, I think you're going to see weddings in the normal way that we've seen it within a reasonable period of time. But there's always the caveat that it's not going to happen if all of a sudden you have a surge.
So be careful in the next month or two for sure anyway. Dr. Fauci, as always, sir, thank you for coming on, sharing your expertise with us and viewers.
So notice how Chuck Todd said, be careful in the next month or two. when Anthony Fauci would not even commit to allowing you to have a wedding this year, an indoor wedding. It's not up to him. He doesn't get to decide. He's being ridiculous. People need to get on with their lives, and weddings are part of that. Indoor weddings are part of that. There are a whole bunch of halls, event halls, that rely on that for their income. They've been without that for a year, over a year. And you're not going to let them go back in business for another year? Are you serious? He does not get to make that decision. And even if he did, he's not being reasonable. Furthermore, he's just like Joe Biden. We told you on Friday. Joe Biden said in his Thursday night speech about the stimulus, he said that you are not going to be allowed to have a large 4th of July event. You can only go to a small one in your backyard, maybe a barbecue, maybe if you're lucky in your neighborhood. He doesn't have that say. And Anthony Fauci doesn't have that say. We should not give these people the power to say that because they don't have any legal authority to do so. They don't. Again, remember, Donald Trump wanted to tell the governors what to do, and the whole left of the country was up in arms saying, oh, he doesn't have that authority. Well, guess what? Turnabout is fair play. If that's your reasoning, if you think that the law backs you up, then therefore it must back you up with regard to Biden and Fauci, and it does. All right, so there's that. Now, I want you to watch this. This is a recent video. It's not as new, but still, he's been saying this stuff left and right currently, where he talks about travel.
You know from the Biden administration that they say it will make its decisions based on science. What's the science behind not safe for people who have been vaccinated, received 2 doses, to travel?
You know, that's a very good question, John, and the CDC is carefully heading in that direction. You know, when Dr. Walensky made the announcement a day or two ago about the fact that when you have a couple of people, 2 or 3 or more people in a family setting, both of whom are vaccinated, even if it's someone from a friend that doesn't have to be a member of the family, that was the first in a multi-step process that they are going to be rolling out. They're being careful, understandably. They want to get science. They want to get data. And then when you don't have the data and you don't have the actual evidence, then you've got to make a judgment call. And I think that's what you're going to be seeing in the next weeks. You're going to see little by little more and more guidelines getting people to be more and more flexible. The first installation of this is what can vaccinated people do in the home setting. Obviously, the next one is going to be what you're asking. What about travel? What about going out? What about getting a haircut? What about doing things like that? That's all imminently going to be coming out.
All right, so that was from Wednesday night because you saw on the screen Joe Biden in primetime tomorrow night. So this was from Wednesday night. Joe Biden spoke on Thursday night, so it's not that long ago. And he's still saying he doesn't know if you can travel despite the vaccine because vaccines are not enough. We need to look at the science and the data. What? I thought the vaccines were supposed to be vaccines. I thought they were supposed to be effective. Now you shouldn't travel even if you're vaccinated, even if you've waited a little bit. When will this end? And when will his advice actually be consistent? I think the answer, unfortunately, may be never to both of these. And we can't allow that to happen. This is ridiculous. Now, speaking of Joe Biden's speech on Thursday night, I talked to you about this on Friday, and I said that Joe Biden is a liar. He said there was no plan. Kamala Harris said there was no plan. Finally, we've come to the rescue. Batman and Robin. It's not the case. In fact, Donald Trump was the reason there is a vaccine. Joe Biden or Hillary had been president, there would be no vaccine. They wouldn't want one. They would want you to be powerless, stuck at home still, completely. They're still trying to do it, but they're not as successful because there is the vaccine. And during Donald Trump's presidency, he ramped it up to over 1 million vaccines, 1 million jabs a day, over 1 million. So for Joe Biden to come in there and say there wasn't a plan, nothing was happening, I took over and voila, everything is great, and the streets are made of chocolate and the trees are made of cotton candy and we're living in a great world of Willy Wonka. That's not what happened. So I want you to take a look at this tweet. This is not from me. This is not from anybody conservative. This is from Peter Baker of the New York Times. Yes, the New York far left-wing Times. He says, Biden again asserts that his promise of 100 million shots in 100 days was a tough goal to meet. But in fact, on his second day in office, the 7-day average, so that means when Trump was president, was already at the million doses per day average needed to meet his 100-day goal. And then he has a link to factcheck.org and fact-checking Biden's vaccination goal. So when even the New York Times is telling you that Joe Biden lied and that Donald Trump, he doesn't mention Trump because he's not that charitable. He can't bring himself to do it. But hello, by process of elimination, who was president in the 7 days prior to Biden's presidency? I think his initials were Donald J. Trump. All right, when we come back, we will have more from Peter Baker on Joe Biden, and none of it is very nice. And also, I want to show you what they are doing to some of the anti-lockdown protesters in the Netherlands. Is that coming here? Because if it is, you should worry. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car!
But how will we?
The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing.
But how will we?
The closing!
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. So before the break, we were talking about the New York Times reporter, Peter Baker. and how he was actually critical of Joe Biden and showed that Joe Biden lied about the plans for COVID and showed that Joe Biden saying that he had this goal to inject 1 million people per day and reach 100 million in his first 100 days was actually very easy because who set that into motion? Donald Trump. He didn't have to do anything. All he had to do was move into the White House and take credit. He's done for a lot of other things that Donald Trump set into motion. Now, compare him to Donald Trump on another thing, and Peter Baker does that, and that's the number of press conferences. We've talked on this show about how, and there's his tweet, at this point in office, Trump had given 5 news conferences. Obama had given 2, George W. Bush 3, Clinton 5. Biden so far has given 0. He's been president more than 50 days, 0 press conferences. And that tweet is from the 13th, so that's Saturday. 0 press conferences. And why hasn't he given them? Well, we've talked about it on this show. He can't because he has dementia. He cannot answer questions with any coherence. You saw him in the video we showed you last week where he could not remember the names of the 2 women that he was nominating to 4-star generals in his affirmative action for women plan for the military. He was very feeble and his voice was very frail and weak in his address on Thursday night. And he looked like he was about to fall asleep. I know I was listening to it. I was struggling. And that's because he isn't all there. He's frail. He's almost 80. And, Donald Trump was almost 80. He was 74 years old. That's almost 80 from the place I'm looking at it. But Donald Trump had the energy of somebody that's 24. This guy has the energy of somebody that's 104. And that's why he's not going to have a press conference, because he cannot handle it. He cannot handle impromptu questions. He won't know what to say. It's not even like a presidential debate. It's a lot worse. You've got a lot more opponents, not just Donald Trump. Or in this case, you have actually no opponents because these people are all on your side. So that should tell you he still cannot handle the tiniest duties as a president. You know who the real president is? We all know. The person who's getting the presidential daily briefings and making the phone calls to foreign leaders. And her name is Kamala Harris. That's the real president. She's the shadow president. She's the real president. He is a shell of a person. He's a shell of a president. A husk. That's it. All right, now, I talked to you before the break about something that is going on in the Netherlands, and that is anti-lockdown protests, or at least they tried. But I want you to see what they did to these people. It should disturb you because that could happen here. Take a look at this video of clips we put together.
Ja, daar heb je ze. Jezus, hé! Jezus, hé! Yo!
Kankerlaaien. Kanker. Kankerhonden. We moeten dood. Kanker erop.
Moet zelf nadenken en dat doen jullie niet. Dit is niet goed te praten. We zijn vredig, we komen op voor onze vrijheden. Kijk hier. Kijk, het staat er weer allemaal op. Het staat erop. Schaam jullie diep. Schaam jullie.
Right, these people were peacefully protesting against the lockdown. And this is the country that had Nazis take over and round up the likes of Anne Frank, send her to her death in Bergen-Belsen camp, where my grandfather luckily survived. And he told me he met Anne Frank when he was there. Anne Frank was murdered. They sent a lot of other Jews to their deaths. And this kind of reminds me of that. This is like the eve of the Holocaust. Only these people are not being beaten because they're Jewish. They're being beaten and attacked with dogs and batons and a van. Because what? What did they do? They protested peacefully against the lockdown. This is horrible. And that is supposed to be a liberal, small l, democracy. It isn't anymore, apparently. And you know what? That could happen here. Things like that have happened here, and they will happen here. We showed you the George Floyd Memorial Zone where you can't even go. Now, police can't even go there. Some of the protesters say they can't go there. That we showed you the video of the protester whose nephew was killed there, I think. It was her nephew. But this is very scary. These people were peaceful. And the one guy, he was already subdued, and they had the dog attacking him, and they kept attacking him with batons. This is disturbing. All because these people want their freedom. And you know what? The government is not going to give it back to you willingly. They will only do it begrudgingly, kicking and screaming all the way. That is the scary thing about that. And that's the Netherlands, which is supposed to be so liberal. You know, the place that has prostitutes in windows, the place where you can get pot freely anywhere you want. Although that may soon become North Dakota, unfortunately. Yes, we're becoming like Europe. And we may become like Europe in that way as well. That is frightening. What is different between us and the Netherlands that can't happen here? Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So there's that. Now, I have talked about this off and on since the beginning of this show. And that is the moratorium on evictions. And the problem is that people who own properties still have to make mortgage payments. How are they going to do that? And my question has always been, who on earth would want to become a landlord? Nobody. And the people who will remain landlords are going to be slumlords. You know why? They're required to do costly repairs, and somebody's got to pay for that. Usually that's out of rent, the profits they make through rent, and they're not getting rent coming in. So who is going to pay for that, even if they get a break on their mortgages? Nobody. And they are going to be out money. So Ilhan Omar, yeah, her from the Jihad Squad, she introduced a bill. I think we've got a picture for you over there. She wants to cancel rent and mortgages. Well, you know what? You can't do that because guess what? Banks need their money. And guess what? The landlords will still be obligated to pay for these costly repairs. And in many cases, landlords still will have to pay for water and heat. Where are they going to get that money? Many landlords are not big, rich people that own a ton of properties. They're usually smaller property owners that own a few houses, a few apartments, and they're using that as their nest egg to try or to get by. And they can't. And you know what? There's an example of this going on now in New York. This is a very extreme example, but I have a feeling there are a lot of examples like this. We just don't hear about them. And this is in Brooklyn, New York. A landlord by the name of Shauna Eccles says that she is now homeless and has to live in her Toyota. Why? Because her tenant will not get out of her apartment, her property, and the tenant owes $14,700 in back rent because of all this COVID moratorium stuff. And you know what? She can't afford to make the repairs. She is forced to cover the heat and the water for this person. She can't afford it and pay rent for her own place, so she has to stay with friends and live in her Toyota. Meanwhile, this person, Sharita Patterson, who is the tenant that owes $14,700 in back rent and is getting away with it because the law is protecting her, she just bought a new car with COVID money and that money that should have gone to rent. This is what is going on. So I ask you again, who on earth would want to become a landlord with these kinds of rules when we know that COVID is going away? I could see it the first 2 weeks, the first month even, maybe even the first 2 months when we didn't know much about this. But now, over a year into this, come on. This is unfair, this is egregious, and this is draconian. This is hurting average working class people. All right, when we come back, we're speaking about COVID. I'm going to tell you about the most important case that's come up in North Dakota, in my opinion, in years, and it's before the Supreme Court, and it's about COVID. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Beck.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your number one choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. So before the break, I told you I'm going to tell you about what I think is the most important case ever to come, at least in recent years, before the North Dakota Supreme Court. And that is, it's actually two cases, State versus Riggin and State versus Somerset Court. Now, Somerset Court is a senior living facility. And Riggin is the name of the woman who is a hairdresser / cosmetologist who opened her salon at that location. And she was fined by the North Dakota government for violating the governor's executive orders. She was subject to criminal charges, as was Somerset Court. And both of them have appealed this all the way to the North Dakota Supreme Court. Their lawyer is actually Luke Simon's lawyer, Lynn Bowie. So he's got a lot, he's on the right side, in my opinion, on a lot of things. He's got a lot of high-profile cases. And what he said to the North Dakota Supreme Court is that this is essentially a taking. It's a taking of property by the government, which I believe he's absolutely right, because this woman's right to make a living and her source of income is her property. And the governor took it from her. And I think she has a right to challenge that and have some kind of hearing. Normally, the government cannot take from you, even in an emergency, unless there's some kind of notice and a hearing. They have to serve you with something. And that didn't happen here. And I feel like she is being wronged here, being tried like a common criminal. And Governor Burgum should either pardon her or something. He should do something so that this case ends, because this is wrong what is being done to her. And we told you about how North Dakota saw the cases of Alzheimer's rise tremendously in North Dakota last year. It went up significantly. Now, why did that happen? I believe it's because senior citizens were cooped up at home. They weren't allowed to go outside. They weren't allowed to see friends and family. We know that that helps your brain connections and your health. And we know that people who are lonely tend to get Alzheimer's more. We also know that getting your hair done is something very important, especially for senior citizens. They're stuck in a senior living facility. That's their only source of respite and relaxation, and this was shut down for them. And I feel for this woman. I hope that they are victorious at the North Dakota Supreme Court. We will see. The governor does have a right to issue executive orders. That right is trying to be limited by the state legislature, I think rightfully so, and we will see what happens. But in the meantime, I think that this is wrong what is being done to this woman. She was just trying to survive, really, and it's a shame. Now, speaking of trying to survive, well, George Floyd's family will not have to try and do that, because they were just awarded last week on Friday $27 million. $27 million. I want you to know something. So, you know I'm a practicing lawyer. When you go to court, when you have cases like this, there are actuarial tables that they use to calculate how much somebody's life is worth. George Floyd, a common criminal who had been in and out of jail, I think it said 8 times. Let me look here on my phone since our computer system isn't working today. He had been, between 1997 and 2005, he served 8 jail terms on various criminal charges, including drug possession, theft, and trespass. In 2007, he faced charges for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. That's when we told you about this. He broke into a pregnant woman's home and depending on which version you read, put his gun to her head or to her womb where her child was, unborn child, and threatened her to get her money and so on. And she thought she was going to die. This is George Floyd, all right? $27 million for this loser thug lowlife who was on fentanyl, who was on all kinds of drugs. We showed you the autopsy, the first autopsy, which is the only one that should count, before all this hubbub and this hyper sensitivity about everything. We showed you he had a heavy heart and a 75% blockage of one of his primary arteries to his heart. This guy's getting $27 million. Let me tell you something. This guy has 5 different kids of all different ages from 5 different women. He's got a couple grandkids too. He never saw most of these people. I know if you Google it, you could see a few pictures of him with his young daughter, with her around his shoulders. He was not in her life. He wasn't even living there. He was in Minneapolis, Stan. She was in Houston, this daughter of his. He was not involved in these children's lives. He was a sperm donor. That's it. They are so lucky now. They are getting $27 million. Yes, I know it's terrible to lose your father, but was he really their father? No. He was barely involved. He was a criminal, deadbeat drug user who moved away from them, was just not in any way, shape, or form the definition of a father to them, if at all. Yes, I'm sure he visited his daughter once or twice or a few times. That's it. Now this daughter is not only going to get her share of the $27 million, but she got Disney stock from Barbara Streisand. I think her and her mother's home was just paid for. She's got a complete college scholarship. This girl is living on Easy Street. She barely knew her dad. And you know what? He probably wouldn't have been in her life much given his record. $27 million. So what is going on with this $27 million? Well, a lot of things. Because you know what? They could have waited till after this trial, the city of Minneapolis Stan. They could have waited. They didn't wait. Why? Because they want to influence the jury. This is totally wrong because what they're saying is that Derek Chauvin was wrong. And listen, I don't approve of putting somebody's knee on their neck. And by the way, here's a tip. You're still believing in Wikipedia as a source? Look up Wikipedia. It still says 8 minutes and 46 seconds when we know that actually was inaccurate. It's 7 minutes and 46 seconds. That's what happens when you have mob rule at a source of information. It's not a source of information. It's a biased result of mob rule. It's not real. It's not accurate. So anyway, I don't approve of his knee on the neck, but we know that was a technique that they were taught. We also know that he was unruly, that he kept saying, I can't breathe. When he wasn't laying down, he was walking around and in the back of the car. We know now that the defense lawyers are trying to get in information about 2 pills that were found that he was taking. And so they've brought it up and they want a pause in the trial. They want this moved to another venue because they say it's not fair. Now all these jurors know from the news, you can't avoid the news on this, that $27 million was paid out for his wrongful death. That must mean that Derek Chauvin's guilty. He cannot have a fair trial as a result of that. And, by the way, Juror 51 said in the questioning that now that she knows that Minneapolis paid $51 million to his family, she does not think that she can be fair in the trial. She's the honest one. I guarantee you the rest of these jurors know about it, and they're not going to say anything. It's not fair. All right, when we come back, we will talk about last night's joke of an award show called the Grammys and some video I think you'll like on the way out. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Beck.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with 1 truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods. the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best-built, best-backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. If I had my choice, I wouldn't watch any of these stupid awards shows because they're not really awards based on merit or talent. We know that a lot of these people in pop music nowadays and rock, if there even is still rock anymore, it's really all just rap and lowlifes who get where they are based on the color of their skin, which if you're white, good luck. Unless you're Eminem, he got to do it. It's very hard unless you're him. Everybody else, it's all about wokeness. It's about what color you are. It's about where your parents came from. Hint, not Europe. And it's all about what your politics are. And that's what last night was on steroids at the Grammys. And I hate watching these shows because I just feel it pulls down my IQ several points. Anytime I watch these things, it makes my brain cells die. And I felt like that last night watching this show. I didn't really watch it. I had it on in the background for noise because I knew I have to talk about these things to tell you what you missed. I'd perform a service to tell you how low these people are. And even CNN was surprised at how vile. All right, so we have told you about the song WAP or WAP. Can't tell you what it stands for on this show, but it's a sexual act on women. And Megan Thee Stallion, who I think is a talentless hack, and Cardi B, another similarly talentless hack, former stripper. That's her whole thing. She's just disgusting. If you look at some of the videos she makes on social media, it's just gross. Some of the things she says, they performed that song on a bed. I think we have a picture from it. We had to censor it. I wasn't even sure we could use it. And so it was promoting porn, and they had a giant stripper pole in the form of a platform high heel, stripper shoes. Just was gross. You don't need to be a prude. I'm not a prude. You don't need to be a prude to know that that is not good for primetime television. This is kids are watching, although kids, they lost their childhood long time ago. Now everything's out there. Nobody cares anymore. They're sexualized. But still, that's just gross. And even CNN, one of its senior editors, was shocked and said, "This is primetime network TV, really?" And women's groups say that it's promoting prostitution and porn and stripping, and it is. They're glamorizing this. It's not a glamorous thing. Yeah, I know everyone's just doing it till they could pay for college. I know. It's just gross. And by the way, this Megan Thee Stallion, who won all these awards, here's an example of her talent. She's got this song called Body that they play endlessly at my gym. I've heard it at other gyms, where the lyrics are body yaddy 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 yaddy, and then many other yaddy yaddy yaddies. That's talent? I mean, that sounds like a 2-year-old. Body yaddy, I mean, come on. And then the other words I can't say because they're the T word for nipples. Yeah, that's talent too. Just come on. This is your talent? This is entertainment? This is a song? No, it isn't. No, it is not. And then Billie Eilish, because she's white and white European, she apologized for winning an award over Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah, white guilt. She apologized, "Oh, Megan Thee Stallion, you really should have won this." This is what we're going to see more and more of on steroids. Everything's about race. Everything's about wokeness. It's not about talent, and it's not about merit. And speaking of that, Riz Ahmed, today they did the Oscar nomination announcements, and Riz Ahmed was nominated. He is the star of a movie about a guy who becomes deaf. And he is a very militant Muslim who pretends to be a moderate. He told the British Parliament in a speech that British producers must cast more diversity and more Muslims, or the Muslims will join ISIS. Yes, because Muslims are joining ISIS because they don't get acting parts. Yeah, that's the ticket. You know what? Growing up, I happen to be a religious Jew. I didn't see a lot of religious Jewish women on television. So why didn't I join ISIS, or why didn't I join some terrorist group? Because it's absurd. It's just not true. All right, now, I want to leave you with a few videos I thought were cute. This first one is from Donald Trump's former assistant communications director, Dan Scavino. Take a look. It's a shark. That is awesome. And you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of this line from Jaws.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
I love that. That is great. That's my movies. That's decency in movies. That's real entertainment, which you don't see anymore, especially most of these movies nominated for the Oscars. And finally tonight, I want to leave you with this video. You hear the saying, think outside the box. This is that. Watch this. See, you don't always have to play by the rules. Remember, things are not always as they seem. See you tomorrow.